information. There's a host of different mental health resources, from head inspection tests to see if you're at risk for bipolar, depression, substance abuse, you name it. And then it directs you to a therapist in the area wherever you live. Doesn't matter if you're concerned about.
We may have lost you a little bit. Is your internet, or is your phone near your computer or anything like that? We lost the audio. Your audio is gone.
Can you hear me now?
Kind of, not really. I'll edit it out, whatever it may be.
Let me just move my phone further away. See if that's doing it.
I'm gonna see, make sure it's not us. It's not us. It was going fine earlier.
It just started sounding. How is it now? I just moved my phone across the room.
Yeah, that actually is better.
Okay, cool.
Goddamn Bezos and Zuckerberg.
I didn't even think about that.
We oftentimes don't either, but over the course of COVID, you kind of realize that we've all kind of been trying to adapt to the Zoom world. So the nuances of playing with the other electronics around.
Yeah. But yeah, the website's fishingthegoodfight.org. So all the info on retreats, you can buy flies, you can sign up for memberships, ton of mental health resources, our blog, lots of good stuff on there.
Yeah, so it kind of makes me feel a little bit like, it reminds me of like a little bit of the Wounded Warrior Project, but you're expanding it to like, because for all men, but men that want to maybe try the outdoors as well, some that maybe don't realize how to address the issues that they may have inside, like you were saying, like what is going on inside of me. All of these resources are available as well. How much does this, we mentioned insurance earlier, like if somebody wants to get involved or do a trip with some guys, like, bring somebody around, how much are we ballpark figuring for a weekend with you cats?
Yeah, it's 2 nights, 3 days. It's about $1,250 for the weekend.
Not bad at all.
No, especially when you're thinking about you're fishing private water for 2 days. Usually that's going to cost you $300 a day on your own. And then you're thinking about 3 group sessions led by a licensed therapist, individual time with a therapist, fly fishing instruction. Like, we try to make it as affordable as possible. We don't make any money on these things. This is our programming. This is how we give back to the community. And we actually we have a scholarship fund for people that can't afford it. So that's going to be rolled out here this month. Actually, we already have a lot of funds allocated to it. But for guys that want to come on a retreat, maybe they can only afford to pay for half of it or a third of it or something like that, we can subsidize the rest. We have payment plans. We subsidize therapy costs for men who can't afford it in our scholarship as well. So it's a huge part of how we're able to give back, because a lot of private insurance doesn't cover any mental health service.
Right.
So I was in that boat myself when I first started getting help. Was like, well, shit, do I deflect this credit card payment or do I go to therapy this week? And we don't want any guy to be in those shoes. Like, it's awful.
Yeah, because it's not cheap all the time, especially like when you're first trying to figure things out. It can get up there $600-700 just for an hour.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. No, I literally made the choice to incur credit card debt and just deal with it until I got my shit together.
I like it. And you're doing the Lord's work, helping out and it's you start to kind of see more men start, at least social media campaigns of like, let's talk about it. Like, it's okay to not be okay. And so
exactly.
You're creating another outlet for men. And obviously, women as well, I assume, are included if they would like to be.
We just work with men right now. And, the reason for that is that it truly is a silent pandemic in the US in terms of men's mental health. 83% of suicides in Colorado are men, to give you an idea. We're 8 times more likely to actually take our own lives. Men act out much more behaviorally when they're struggling with mental health issues than women do. So that's why we end up taking our own lives. We tend to do it violently. Other people are involved. You don't hear about mass shootings with women. It's men that are acting out behaviorally because of their struggles. And so we're trying to specifically address this issue with men because there's so much stigma around it. And we're so far behind the 8 ball compared to women. And that comes back to our mission of improving all lives, right? Because it's a butterfly effect. If the men in the community are struggling and they're down and they're missing work and they're sick and they're taking their own lives, like that affects the spouse, that affects your coworkers, that affects your friends. Like it's not about just improving men's lives. It's about improving everyone's lives by helping men.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, like with what y'all are doing through fly fishing and just the fact that like being outdoors, I don't think people realize how much of an impact that can have on your mental health. Like just
absolutely
and improve it drastically. And then when you combine that with help and then, you know, an awesome activity like fly fishing, like it's crazy that this hasn't already been happening for so long, you know?
Right. I mean, that's literally our model. It's like, it's a triangle for us. Like there's talk therapy, there's medication, there's therapeutic outlets. And, you know, for us, fly fishing is that therapeutic outlet. And when you combine those three elements, you can be on that path towards mental health and, you know, having a better quality of life. And that's what it's been for me. I mean, it was, you know, the way that guys talk to themselves internally when you're struggling with depression is a way you would never talk to anyone in the world, right? Like inside you're saying you're the biggest piece of shit like in this planet. Like you don't deserve to be here. Like what's wrong with you? Why can't you do this? Like why do you do that? You know, and you just hound yourself internally. And you know, trying to flip that script is hard, but that's what we're trying to do.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
This might be like, I mean, we've had many a great guests and not to rule any of those out, but I mean, like this might be one of the best programs we've ever talked about.
Yeah, we like promoting local businesses, but when you can promote something that's like authentically, like it's pure at heart, and like I feel like we're doing the job that we're supposed to be doing by getting this word out. And you know, like I was like, how would we segue, you know, this into casual tomfoolery? But you're a stand-up guy. Like if you are going to go fishing, or you know, if you wanted this outlet, you're a great person to have around. You know, it's a genuine.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was like, this may be a little, because it is, you know, it's a serious discussion, and I don't want to make light of it because we are a lighthearted podcast. But you know, so it's how you handle the conversation, and it's brutally enlightening, but it's also, you know, I enjoyed hearing more about it.
Yeah, and a question about like, you know, you mentioned earlier about like men. The backlog is like, you know, a decade before you really come and either face or openly admit, you know, and this is just a question, like while you were a college athlete, were there a lot of services provided in this kind of arena, or is it just something like it's not quite there yet?
No, it's not there yet. And that's why, you know, at times I thought about directing this towards athletes, because I think them and vets are as susceptible to mental health challenges as anyone, just because it's their identity, it's their life, you know, it's what they do 24/7. And when that's gone, it's a huge hit. But, you know, we did a lot of mental conditioning that was more focused around, you know, envisioning how you were going to play, things along those lines. But there wasn't mental health support. You know, I'm sure that if I had reached out to somebody, I would have gotten it. But like most men, I had no idea I was dealing with something that could be treated.
And, you know, I feel like when you mentioned the athletes, you saw someone like a Kyle Long who had been dealing with these injuries. And he's like, it's depressing. And, you know, it's sad when you're not with your team. You don't get to be, the camaraderie's not there when you're having your rehab, or you're not on the road, you're not on the team bus. And you don't necessarily understand why that is that you feel that way. I know you're not necessarily a neurologist, but do you think that there is something like directly correlated from playing the contact sports with, you know, like these are the symptoms that you've seen, or did you see them a little bit before you started really playing, you know, high impact sports?
Well, I mean, I was an inside linebacker from 8 years old till 21. So, you know, that was my life from third grade until I, you know, got hurt. But I definitely think there's some correlation just in terms of the, what you were talking about with rehab or being injured. You just feel like a piece of shit. You feel like you're not there for your team, you know? I was so
tired because of it. He was like, this isn't fun anymore if I'm just,
right.
You know, so I just wasn't, he was like, it's sad. And so I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah.
No, and that's how it was for me too. You know, I'd be like, okay, I'm starting to recover. I'm starting to move up the depth chart. Boom, hurt again. You know, like it's just demoralizing. And, you know, by the end of it, you're kind of just like, you're not engaged anymore. You're just kind of beat down, and you feel worthless, and you didn't make it, and you didn't help your teammates. And it's a shitty feeling, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like we started to see more. You've seen other like pro athletes with huge platforms, Blake Griffin being one. And I feel like a lot of NBA guys have done it, and they're starting to see more emotional support along those lines. But those are for professional athletes that maybe either have those resources or, you know, have that avenue to kind of explore those options. You're giving it to the everyday person across the country.
Exactly. That's the goal.
I love it.
Like, you know, you mentioned Project Healing Waters is an incredible organization, but we want to reach the everyday guy, you know, the working age guy that's struggling. Like this is the majority of our country, you know, this like the pro athlete, the vet, like that makes up a small percentage of men. Like we want to open this up to everybody, just the Joe Blow that's working an insurance job down the street and had a divorce and he's really struggling to cope with it.
Yeah. Do you guys accept people from like out of state? Have you had people come in all over the US and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody can come on the retreats. We have members all over the country. And so, yeah, our goal is to scale this so that, you know, a couple years down the road, we have simultaneous retreats going on in North Carolina, Colorado, and Oregon. You know, that's the long-term goal.
I have some friends that I'd like to put you in contact with in the Asheville area, and some also in like Cleveland that like to do some of those big old Midwestern. They fucking fish. So
oh yeah,
they love it. So I can understand how, you know, it would grow like a weed in that instance.
Yeah. Asheville is a huge fishing community, and I used to go there all the time with my girlfriend. We'd go camp for a day, stay in Asheville for a day, go check out all the breweries, you know, but there's fly fishing everywhere, and that's what's awesome about it.
Where's your favorite fly fishing spot in Colorado?
Public that you go personally to?
Cheeseman Canyon. So Cheeseman Canyon's a part of the South Platte. So the South Platte has multiple different drainages that are all broken up by dams. So they're called tailwaters. So you've got Cheeseman Canyon, Decker's, 11 Mile Canyon. These are all sections of water that are split up by dams, but Cheeseman Canyon is just gorgeous. I mean, you've got house-sized boulders in the creek, and all these fish are wild, and they're just beautiful, dark red rainbows and brown trout. And, you know, it's a 3 mile canyon where you can always find isolation and be on your own. It's one of the hardest fisheries in the country, which is another reason why I really enjoy it. It's challenging, but it truly is that escape when you go into Cheeseman.
So you kind of seem to have one of those personalities, like whatever you do, you're going to give it 130 million %. You're going to do it. I mean, obviously you went to the Primo school for football in that same sense. Do you do the same thing with fly fishing? Obviously you mentioned you hadn't done it and, you know, you picked it up 3 years ago. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you suck? Like, is it like every waking moment you're like, I wish I was on the river?
Yeah, I mean, now it is. When I first started, I sucked. You know, I mean, I no clue what I was doing. It's kind of intimidating to get into, which is another reason we put on these retreats and, you know, provide information on both mental health and fly fishing. But, you know, these days I'm pretty proud of, you know, where I am now. I can fish the most challenging fisheries in the country and successfully. And, you know, that's a big part of why we chose fly fishing too, is the sense of accomplishment it provides guys.
You know, it's as gratifying as catching a fish.
No, especially on a fly. You know, like this isn't a night crawler you're throwing on a spin rod. Like this is, I mean, I'll show you, like, you know, what we're catching 24-inch fish on, you know, is something like this. You know, it's absolutely tough.
Look how little it is.
Those are big hands.
Yeah, right.
You know, so I mean, these flies are, you know, a quarter the size of your pinky fingernail, you know, and you're pulling in big, strong fish on these things, and you're tricking them and getting them to think it's a real bug. And, it's a real sense of accomplishment when you do it. Same with tying. Like, it's not easy. It's not something you just walk out and do.
Okay, two